influencing popular culture, politics, and everything in between. The local station takes you ringside as we discuss the crazy world that is professional wrestling. This is Going Ringside with the local station.
Hello and welcome to a monumental episode for Going Ringside. This is episode 100. Big day for us, and so glad you could be with us. If this is your first time watching, let me tell you a little about the show. We started a little less than 2 years ago and didn't quite know what this show would be. Would I just sit around and talk about wrestling with maybe some fans and debate? What we didn't expect, what we never expected, is that Going Ringside would become one of the premier wrestling talk shows on earth. It has been huge. The amount of stars that we have had on the show has been amazing, and we're only getting started. So if this is your first time watching our series, this is a great episode to start on. We're going to bring you some of the biggest stars we have talked to over the last couple of years. Maybe a good place to look. I want to see more of that interview, and go check our archives for all these mega stars that have been on. And let me show you a graphic that we just put together for 2024, our biggest interviews of the year, our most viewed interviews. At the top there, Swerve, Strickland, AEW. Right after he won the title, we had Swerve on the show. Jerry the King Lawler we had on. Of course, Toni Storm, back when she was timeless Toni Storm. Trish Stratus and Lita joined us together on really what was an impressive episode. I really couldn't believe I was hosting it with those two giants of the industry. Tony Khan, we had Bianca Belair and her husband Montez Ford on with us. The one that got everyone talking, they couldn't believe we had her on. We got former WWE owner Linda McMahon on the show, who is about to be in Trump's cabinet, most likely. We had Bill Goldberg, we had Haku, and we had the guy who we're going to start with here shortly, HBK, the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, just to give you a glimpse of what this show has been like as we bring you the biggest stars on the planet every single week on Going Ringside. So we compiled a lot of the big clips that we've had over the last couple of years to show you the big stars who are joining us every week. So let's get to it, and we're going to start off. The first guy you'll hear from, the Heartbreak Kid himself. Here is Shawn Michaels.
Shawn, you have been, for a generation, the image of counterculture, go against the boss. That was what built your career and your icon status. Now you're kind of the boss. What has that dynamic been like for you?
Well, I'm kind of. I mean, I'm head of NXT, but I'll say this: I'm still. I look at it as I'm still here to serve. So it is very ironic, again, if you think about, yes, the change of my character from television to the person that I am behind the scene. But I still, all of it was based in a kid out there having fun and loving what he's doing. And I do this boss role the exact same way. I'm still passionate about the product. We put on a heck of a show every Tuesday night. I do that because I put myself in the seat as a fan, and I try to give the viewer what it is that I used to love about this and still love about this job. So again, I'll say this, I'm very thankful that I have the opportunity to be in charge of something that I love so much and that I don't consider work.
You mentioned the backstage segments with the boss's daughter, with Austin, with Rock. Did you ever feel pressured at all, or was everyone so welcoming in that position? Like, it's a very stressful world, I would imagine.
I mean, I think, of course, personally, you have your own, stresses. You want to I want to do well. But I also think a lot of us were newer, and everyone was kind of in this era. We look back, and everybody was it was their time. It gave us a great chance to learn from, you're right there in front of them. You get to learn from everyone around you. But yeah, always pressure. But I think that was what makes you a good performer is using that pressure or that stress and turning it into a good thing and driving you, motivating you.
Yeah, I think as an athlete, you're harshest critic, and the most pressure is going to come from yourself. But I also feel like there was a lot of, that was the height of the Monday Night Wars, and there was a lot of, we're all on the same team.
Yeah.
So, so it's welcoming wasn't necessarily the word as, all right, we got 2 new players to get in here and to just keep trying to level up. as AJ said, but raise the bar and just get the higher ratings that night. Of course, we had friends all over at WCW and that we're keeping in touch, and we would all run over to the hotel and have our own Nitro party afterwards, which was sitting in someone's hotel, texting our friends, being like, "No way, I can't believe you said that," because we would have it on in the locker room. But
Bill Goldberg, this is a big event for you. Georgia, Florida Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
I mean, what does it mean?
It's a big event for me because somebody actually remembered that I played football back in the day.
Yeah.
It's an awesome accomplishment. It's an awesome honor. It's very humbling. Anytime you get an individual accolade, they don't really understand what goes into it.
You say people remember you for football. Has that been a struggle for you over the years because your star went the way it did?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. People are in the now as opposed to, getting history on somebody's backstory.
Sure.
But, get out of Georgia or you get out of the South. And, some people kind of forgot that I played football back in the day.
When you guys did NXT, was it here? Or was it else? It was here?
It was here, but the building was very different.
Yes.
When we come back here to the Performance Center, it feels like home.
Yes.
But this building behind us didn't exist.
No.
It's evolved. It's grown. We were over in the other building, so it's really cool to come back and feel like we're home, but see that it's evolved.
Were you two a couple at this point? Or tell me about the timeline there.
What a time it was.
Yeah.
So I arrived on the scene in NXT in 2015.
Okay.
And my beautiful wife, soon to be, arrived on the scene in 2016. So in that first year, I was in NXT in developmental, learning myself as an individual, either WWE superstar, and then I eventually got put with my right-hand man, 100 grand now, Angelo Dawkins with the Street Profits at the end of that year. But around 2016 is when she came on the scene, and that's when we were both in NXT.
Is that how you two met this year?
We met here in NXT.
Yes, in
so
NXT.
NXT is not just like close to our heart because of wrestling. It's close to our heart because we met each other. So our life started in wrestling in NXT, and our life started together here in NXT.
Yes.
So.
And did it start slow or did it start fast?
It started
pretty
fast.
It did start fast.
1,000 miles an hour.
Just like wrestling,
Just
everything
like
goes
wrestling.
fast and
Everything's
comes fast. We came together very quickly.
Because Jacksonville is where we launched AEW 5 years ago. This week marks 5 years since we first announced the formation of AEW, and we're a local Jacksonville business. We're based here. We have a lot of staff here, including myself and the whole office. And I think it's really cool that we're coming back to Daly's Place this Wednesday, January 10th. And Daly's Place is the home of AEW. We really started here, and we've done more shows in Daly's Place than any other venue. But it's been a long time since we've been here. And this is going to be one of the most important shows because the company's grown so much. This past year, we broke the world record for the most tickets ever sold for a pro wrestling event, AEW All In London. We sold 81,035 tickets. And a lot of the fans have seen the Jags games over there in the same stadium, Wembley Stadium. And it was the exact same kind of crowd, packed stadium, and one of the iconic venues. So it was really cool. But it means a lot to me personally because of obviously my connection here, 12 seasons in the NFL, and my family's connection with the Jaguars.
One thing I want to ask you guys, I recently was watching some old Raw, and seldom have I ever seen enhancement talent. It's kind of how you seem to be portrayed early in Raw, like 93, 94, go to main event status in just a few years. Can you talk to us about that journey from early Raw to later on when things really take off?
I think a lot of that was just our resilience and just our persistence because we got the opportunity to go with the Italian Stallion. He just needed a whole bunch of extras. He took us. I don't think he really wanted to. He just needed more bodies. We would work 3 nights. We would do Raw, Superstars, and Wrestling Challenge, and we would get paid $150 a night. He took a $100 booking fee. I mean, he was ripping the guys off that he was taking. And, he would put 4, 6 people in every room that he had, and he got paid to put like 2 people in each room. But anyway, we went in and we would just work as hard as we possibly could. When we would work with the stars, we would try and take big bumps. We'd try and take different bumps. We would try and make them look as good as possible, maybe get 1 or 2 moves in that were cool that we could do, something offensive, showing our athleticism. And we really believed that we continued to do that because we had a good positive buzz that we could like earn ourselves a spot. And there were so many people on the independent scene said, you got to stop job and you got to stop job and you're going to be labeled like that forever. We said, no, we think we can break that mold because times are changing. And we did. Lo and behold, they started bringing us out on our own, just the 4 of us, myself, Jeff, Jason Arndt, who went on to be Joy Abs, and a guy named Marty Gardner, first name Sham, last name Payne, a very a cult-like popular figure in wrestling independent history. And then myself and Jeff, we eventually got offered a deal.
Ms. McMahon, how did you first get involved? How did you still support President Trump? You were in his cabinet. How did the relationship start for you guys? It seems like 40 years ago.
It was almost 30 years ago now. We met, and he was a big fan of the product of WWE, and he came in. He was in some of our storylines, some of the highest rated storylines. We became friends, and we've been friends ever since. And I was honored. It was the honor of a lifetime to serve in his cabinet.
I wanted to ask about that. How did that decision, how did he approach you to even say, I want you in the cabinet?
Well, it was a call, came from Trump Tower after he was the president-elect. And I went up to talk to him, and he said, look, he said, I've got a novel idea. He said, I want somebody to run the Small Business Administration who's actually run a business and actually understands what it's like for business people who are starting up, what it is that impacts them positively and negatively. And he said, I would like for you to consider doing it.
Was politics like pro wrestling at all?
Well, clearly, we don't have a ring.
You were the first time Taker really kind of stretches himself as a performer. Is that right?
I think it was the first time he'd been challenged psychologically in a way that matched the physical challenge. And I never got confirmation on this, but I think he just got tired of wrestling people who were taller than him or heavier than him. Like, he had so much more left in the tank, as he proved by stealing shows at WrestleMania, 20 years after I retired. But at the time, that was kind of a nice boost in the arm for him, and obviously for me as well.
When did you in WWF realize, oh dear, this is next level? This is not what I've been accustomed to as far as stardom and fame and selling power.
When I walked out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, with my hand in the air after my first pay-per-view with the Undertaker.
Was that the infamous Hell in the Cell?
No.
Okay.
Hell in the Cell took place a year later.
Okay.
Or 2 years later. Sorry, 2 years later. So Undertaker and I had quite a run, because our first pay-per-view was June '96, and the most famous one was June '98.
Sure.
And man, people are still asking him and asking me on a daily basis about the Cell match.
Are you still paying for that match?
Oh, sure, yeah. See, here's my smile, and this is the real smile. So,
okay.
And not only are those two teeth gone, but the two next to him, because of the trauma, are rotting out as we speak and will need to be replaced. So
really?
We're looking at about $25,000 in dental work for something that happened 26 years ago.
Well, the champ is in the house right now. Swerve Strickland, new champion. Congratulations. What a week it has been for you.
Wild, historic, energizing, inspirational, many other words, but thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
And to my technical people, while we talk, is the mic picking up? I know the gold is covering it right now. Okay, just making sure. The gold. Brand new title belt for AEW.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Got the branding on it, the logo of my own, Who's House, Swerve's House, right here, immortalized.
So you take down Samoa Joe. What was that like? Samoa Joe is one of the toughest. It almost looks to me like fighting a brick. Like, it's just so hard.
It's a brick that moves towards you and it doesn't stop. Yeah. It's like that man is a force. He's represented AEW so well over the last couple months, and that's what a champion looks like. That's how a champion fights. And to even be able to compete with them, to beat them, to go up against them, you got to be relentless. You got to be resilient to keep getting up, and that's pretty much how I got here. Just constantly keep getting back up. That's how my life and my career has always been. Getting knocked down by forces of nature, but not being content and staying down and coming back and fighting harder.
You have a historic lineage in wrestling, and we knew you were in the podcast world, so to speak, and now you showed up, I think it was in a mask at an AEW match, and just kind of shocked everyone. How did the AEW deal come together?
Well, and you kind of touched on it on the prior question. 5 decades, if you will. Yeah. Started in April of '86, so my anniversary's coming up here in a couple of weeks, which is still unbelievable to me, but I feel very blessed, very grateful that I am still, getting to, I guess, be a part of my first love, and that's the in-ring product. But being a third-generation promoter, I've done a little bit of everything in the industry and I have more of a passion and love for it today than I ever have. But the AEW situation, matter of fact, I did some media earlier today, and just how the cards really fell into place at the end of 2022. My 2022 was nothing that I ever really dreamed of. And the end of 21, I've always stayed in moderately good shape, but at the end of 21, we were all still kind of coming out of the pandemic, and during the pandemic, I stayed in shape, but you couldn't get in the gym quite as much and everything that went with it. But I just kind of made my decision that I'm going to get in the best possible shape that I can. And then it kicked off with an independent promotion up in New York City in Hammerstein Ballroom, and I worked for the NWA. I worked with the WWE, both the executive job and did a little in-ring stuff, part of Ric Flair's last match. And then all of a sudden, my friend, I just became a free agent.
I think we start out in Jacksonville and then we go to SmackDown, whereas maybe in Tampa, then Orlando, Miami. So I'm like, okay, we can all stay in one place where normally the holiday tours are like every other big city and a flight every day. So I'm really excited for this one.
Sure. Now, talk to me about what you're doing. I mean, you just came off brutal War Games. How are you feeling after that?
I feel good. Luckily I didn't have to go to Raw. I didn't have to go to, they just had a Netflix appearance in LA. I didn't have to do that. So I got to stay home and lick my wounds and sleep a little bit and kind of go at my own pace, which normally doesn't happen, especially after a match like that. So I feel pretty good now.
Well, we are here with the icon himself, Jerry the King Lawler. Jerry, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fine, doing great. Looking around, there's this big crowd, and it's awesome to see all these people here.
How is life going for you? What's going on with you? Doing a lot of conventions?
Doing a lot of conventions. I'm sort of hobbling around right now. I just had a knee replacement, my right knee, and but it's doing good, but it's a little bit hobbling here and there.
How has life been? Because you say you've been hobbling. I know you've dealt with some health things, but you seem to be doing pretty well right now.
Well, I seem to be doing pretty well. People just see me like this, but at home I live by myself, and it's a little tough there right now. But it seemed to get better.
Because all the Trumpites are going to be running wild for 4 years. So with the power of Donald J. Trump and all the Trumpites running wild, America is going to get back on track. And like Donald J. Trump said, America is going to be great again. When I look out and I see all the real Americans, I think about how Donald Trump, his family was compromised. When I look out there and I see Donald Trump, I think about how his business was compromised. But what happened last week when they took a shot at my hero and they tried to kill the next president of the United States? Enough was enough. And I said, let Trumpomania run wild, brother. Let Trumpomania rule again. Let Trumpomania make America great again.
Now, Booker, you said old school, which is my fandom.
Yeah.
So I want to go a little old school on you. How did you and Stevie Ray start? Way back when, in the Harlem Heat days, when it first started, how were you guys brought in?
My brother always wanted to be a professional wrestler. He, watched it as a kid. He, emulated the wrestlers. He was actually working out when he was like 16 years old. Remember, he had this thing he ordered offline. Back then, offline was totally different than it was today. But it was called a bull worker, And he used to be working with that thing like crazy. But he knew a guy that opened a wrestling school by the name of Ivan Putski, WWE Hall of Famer. He opened a school back in 1990, and my brother went to the school, and he asked me if I wanted to go to the school as well. The school was $3,000. It was an 8-week course. 8 weeks. And
8 weeks will make you a wrestler.
Exactly. 8 weeks, they give you a little certificate that say you're a professional wrestler.
It seemed to work.
no, but that's not the way it really works.
It's not.
But it got my foot in the door, and I was willing to do anything to get my foot in the door. But I didn't have the money to go to the wrestling school, but I was working for a guy, and he sponsored me to go to the wrestling school.
Well, we are overjoyed to be joined by the lady of the hour, the lady of the century herself, timeless Toni Storm. Toni, thank you for joining us on the show today.
Thank you, darling. How are you?
Well, let's first get to it because we're in Jacksonville, Florida right now, where AEW is headquartered, and you guys are coming back here for a big show on the 24th and 27th.
That's it. Yes, we're happy to be back to the home of All Elite Wrestling.
So talk to me about AEW. We got a lot of viewers that know a little about what this AEW thing. It's headquartered here in Jacksonville. Talk to me about AEW and why it has really become this juggernaut of an entertainment company.
Well, it's the hot new thing in professional wrestling. For the longest time, there's always been WWE, WWF. They've kind of been all that is wrestling. But now we have All Elite Wrestling, which is kind of shaken up the whole wrestling world.
So how did $1 Million Man come about? Because everyone I've talked to says it's literally the greatest gimmick any wrestler could be given.
Well, I was fortunate because the character of the $1 Million Man was a Vince McMahon original. When he contacted me and I went and sat down with him, he said, Ted, he told me all about what was going on and how the company was, beginning to move forward. And he said, I've got this idea. It's never been done before. And he says, but here's the deal. He says, I can't tell you what it is until you agree to sign with me because I don't want to give away a great idea and then you go somewhere else and do it. So I had to agree to sign, and obviously I did. And basically he said, the one thing everybody hates is someone who, by virtue of their wealth, bullies people. And I said, I can't stand guys like that myself. But that's the nature of the $1 Million Man character. He pushes his weight around by pushing the money around.
Hogan comes in. Was that you? Was that pre-you? So how did the Hogan conversation happen?
Hulk was filming a TV series called Thunder in Paradise. Thank you all very much. Classic TV show, right?
I enjoyed it.
Whew. You're easily entertained.
Easily entertained.
But Hulk was there filming that, and I was at the Disney MGM Studios filming WCW. And Ric Flair is the one that put us together, actually.
Okay.
Introduced us.
And then kind of everyone came with that. Macho, Mean Gene.
Well, not all at once. Okay. Not all at once. Mean Gene was first. Mean Gene was there before Hulk. I don't think Bobby was. I can't remember. But, once Hulk came, then, Randy came, and things got a lot easier.
Yeah, the Kane character was amazing. I'd had a couple failed runs, and then Kane came along. The debut, in my opinion, many people's opinion, is the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
Not my doing is actually, the plate was just set perfectly for me, but having the opportunity to wrestle Undertaker and that whole storyline and then going on from there, I was just blessed to have an incredible career in WWE.
Were you and Taker just essentially the same size?
Yeah, we're very close. Yes.
Really?
A lot of people think that we are brothers outside the ring because we look alike. We're virtually the same size. So.
Did you bond over the years?
Oh, yeah. He was instrumental in just helping me in WWE. Our first match was actually in Smoky Mountain Wrestling in Knoxville.
Was that with Jerry Lawler's territory?
No, that was Jim Cornette.
Before we go, Jim, I don't want to forget to mention, I'm reading it right now, Under the Black Hat by Jim Ross. Your pretty much details your career for the last 25, 30 years. How has the book been going? The book came out a few months ago. How have things been going with that?
Well, it started out hot, and it stayed that way, thank goodness. It was the #1 selling sports biography on Amazon, as used as the indication. But you can get the book at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and my website, jrsbbq.com. So it's doing well. It's kind of an homage to my late wife, who was killed in March of 17. And somebody said I wrote a love story. I didn't intend to write a love story, but Women are enjoying the book as much as men. It's not just about headlocks. It's about life and getting knocked down and getting back up. That's always been my philosophy. With 3 bouts of Bell's palsy and Southern accent, kind of these fat cheeks, I'm not ideal for television, I'm told, or have been told, but the Khan family doesn't feel that way. So it's a book about life, surviving it, getting up, getting knocked down, and I think folks are going to enjoy it. So I appreciate you reading it. How are you liking it so far?
I'm liking it quite a bit, Jim. Liking it quite a bit. Thanks. We're here joined by Paul White. And Paul, tell me a little about your start here with AEW and essentially coming to the Jacksonville-based organization.
It's been a pretty overwhelming transition for me. I mean, for so many decades, I worked for WWE, and it was ran out of Stanford, and it was this a big conglomerate machine that was very product driven. And then to make that transition after 4 decades to AEW and see the facilities that we were able to work in there in Jacksonville and at the stadium, and though it's still a big machine, it's much more people oriented. I don't know if that translates well enough. Even as big as the Jacksonville Jaguars are, and Tony Khan and AEW and all the multiple things that are happening, it's still much more of a one-on-one person relationship.
And so that is just a snippet of the stars we've had on. As you can see, the biggest ever. You just saw Paul White there. Goldberg, Shawn Michaels, Trish, all of them. And that's not all. We have so many more we've talked to in the last 2 years. In just the last few weeks, from AEW, Adam Cole, along with WWE's Meechin and Grayson Waller. The greatest stars of all time, the legends like Ron Simmons, Jake the Snake Roberts, Abdullah the Butcher. Search Going Ringside, check out our archives. They're all there. They're free. You don't need to sign up for anything. And I want to point out something that's special about Going Ringside that hopefully will be coming in 2025. One interview that got a lot of buzz, that everyone was like, how did you get that interview on a wrestling podcast talk show? It was unthinkable. It was Linda McMahon. So as you may know, we're affiliated with Channel 4 here in Jacksonville. My other job is as a news anchor, news reporter, been doing it for decades. I've been utilizing some of my skill set to try and get these interviews that you would never believe would be on a wrestling talk show or podcast, that no one else is going to see anywhere in the world. We're going to get them. I'm going to push for some that I've got up my sleeve in coming months. So keep an eye on Going Ringside in coming months. And before we go, I have so many people to make this show what it has been. First off, of course, WWE and AEW, they've been great partners. WWE taking us down to the Performance Center in Orlando. We had almost every NXT star on the show in just the last few months. AEW, based here where we're at in Jacksonville, they've been a wonderful partner for us as well. Other partners include River City Wrestling Con. River City Wrestling Con, if you were in the Southeast, it is the premier wrestling con convention anywhere. It's going to be happening this June in St. Johns County, Florida. You may want to get your tickets and go. That's where we see a lot of the big stars. So River City Wrestling Con will be back this June. We're happy to continue our partnership with them. You will see me a lot out there hosting a lot of the big parts of the event. So River City Wrestling Con, we cannot say enough. And another one we want to thank is Victoria Crawford. You knew her in WWE's Alicia Fox. Victoria, I didn't show clips from her because she's been on so many of our shows. Check it out. Victoria, we've done shows just about her. She's come on many episodes. Just last week, she was on with us when we had Jimmy Hart on to give us her expertise, her thoughts on where the wrestling industry is after spending 19 years in WWE. And Victoria's been a wonderful partner. And another one I want to mention, and that would be a guy you might remember, Elijah Burke, a.k.a. The Pope, and his Love Alive charity. I want to put something up and talk about what they have coming up. Here it is. I'm going to take my phone out so I can read it. Murray Hill Church Gymnasium, January 11th. If you see this before January 11th, at 4500 Post Street in Jacksonville, they are having the Duval Brawl. One of the things they'll have is a 20-man battle royal. So a big event. If you're watching this in the Jacksonville area before the 11th, go out and check out what they're doing there. They're going to have a great event. Another good partner has been Hatchet Pro Wrestling, you may have heard, run by WWE star Dexter Lumis. His real name is Sam Shaw. They just opened in the last couple years down in St. John, St. Augustine, Florida, and they're doing a lot of good work down there. We've been happy to partner with them, and so many others, too many to name, that we've come across along the way. So going into 2025, look for some big stars, big episodes, and we'll also tackle some big topics in the wrestling world as well. So thanks for joining us on this 100th episode of Going Ringside. We'll see you back here for episode 101.
This has been Going Ringside with The Local Station, brought to you every Wednesday on your favorite podcast player, on News4 Jax Plus, as well as the News4 Jax YouTube channel.